Again, after, as Blunty put it this morning, a quarter year with no streams. Well, I mean, if you want to put it that way, I guess you can. You know, sometimes you just gotta collect yourself, and you know, figure out what you want to do with your life. And it turns out what I want to do with my life is stream. So, is the mic volume too low? Hang on, stream. How about now? No? Oh, that's weird. Okay, hold on. Oh, why would VST plugin is not set correctly? Yes. Oh my god, all my shit has gotten fucked up. Okay, hold on. Playback device out 1 2. Capture device in 1 2. Playback device out 1 2. In 1 2. Oh. Service. I don't know. Okay, so now if I hit this, check. There we go. Is that better? Is that better? Yeah. There we go. So is that more like it?
Definitely better.
Yeah, okay. Somehow in the last 3 months, my audio devices got a little effed up. and some of the things that depend on them got a little effed up. And now it's the first stream, so now we get to find the ways that they're effed up and fix them. Yay! Now they're fixed.
I might be a little loud when I checked myself there. It's hard to talk and listen to myself.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm not loud enough. Let me pull you down though, a smidge, Blunty.
Also, I'll say there's also I can hear it right now too. There's like a little rasp in the, like a little, not rasp, but a little static in the mic.
No, that's not acceptable. Because I fixed that problem in the most annoying way possible. That sucks if that's true. There's nothing I can do about that though.
Okay.
Yeah, I had an
issue.
I had an issue with that, and I thought I fixed it by switching to the microphone's internal battery instead of using phantom power from my other devices. But if you're still hearing it, Blunty.
Yeah.
Is it really bad?
Definitely can hear the crackle. I mean, it's not crazy. It's definitely, you can hear it. Can you turn me down a little bit? I think I'm still hot.
Okay. That's weird. I haven't changed you at all. I'm pulling you down. I'm going to turn myself up. There we go.
Testing.
Looks pretty consistent. Weird. Anyway, we need an audio guy. Okay. Now that that's done. Let's see if we could actually have a live stream. That fuzz. There should be no fuzz. I don't know what happened. The fuzzing. If I turn on the 48-volt phantom power from my audio device, it's a horrible hiss. I'm not going to do it right now. And anyway. I said, all right. I'm just going to use the battery built into the camera and built into the microphone, and that'll take everything out of the equation.
It's one of those, like, if you know what you're listening for, you can hear it. But if not, it's not that bad. That's what it is.
I'm sad. Because it's going to be a pain in the ass to fix. I've already tried various things to fix it and haven't fixed it. And now, including literally unplugging the microphone and just plugging it straight into the audio interface. So with a little 3-foot cable. And it was, anyway. All right, let's stop talking about it. Maybe no one will notice. Okay. Let's take questions. That's what we do here. Is we take questions. Is good. Should we cover any topics, Blunty, before people ask questions? Like things that have happened in the last 3 months.
Yeah, well, 3 months is a long time.
Yeah, and yet, you and I stopped doing the news because we thought one reason we stopped doing the news was that every week we were like, nothing really happened this week. So let's see if 3 months was good enough to come up with anything.
Honestly, the main thing is just, the most recent thing, and you made a video on it, is the Caddx Ascent system. Yeah, Caddx Ascent. Caddx Protos drone with the Ascent video system. Caddx going to a new chip inside. And according to Mads Tech, as I understand correctly, there's like 2 chips, and one of them is like the processor that handles the user interface, and then one of them is the actual chip that does the radio modulation and stuff. And there used to be like one chip, and now there's 2 separate chips so they can do like easier upgrades and stuff, but it's basically going to break compatibility with their previous generation, is how I understand it. Which sounds like it's the kind of thing that kind of was inevitable. Like eventually they're going to have to upgrade their hardware, and that's going to break compatibility, but it's going to also piss everybody off. So, yeah. Go ahead. My impression, for people who don't remember the original timeline, when the original Walksnail goggles came out, not the Goggles X, but the original
the Dominators.
that system had a default password on it. So we were able to access the goggles very early on. The password was Artisan. Because the Artisan chipset, for people who don't know, is, like you said, a third-party company. It's a company that isn't Caddx. So they get access to whatever chips are available from Artisan. That being said, it looked like, from all the settings, that basically all they did was get a software development kit. You know, we don't know for sure, but it seemed like basically they had an SDK for the chip, and they were enabling features that were set up by Artisan to work on the system. And then they were sort of making the UI look like the DJI features, but in general, you know, those features were from Artisan built into the chip.
Right.
So we need to remember, and MadTech basically says this too, is like we need to remember that that's the access they have. DJI has access to the core of everything. Like anything you could change structurally about the way the link works, the way the software works, the way anything's integrated, you know, you could change. But my understanding is for Walksnail, it's more like a blob, and they just get access to whatever commands they get access to. The SDK has certain things set up for them, and they can turn a certain bitrate or do a certain thing, but you can't just change core features. And so I think that makes it much harder for them to do something like DJI did, where they built their own version of a different operating system on an old goggle and were able to connect to a new chip, you know, that sort of thing.
Right. And I believe this new chip, the new chip has the markings lasered off it, but I heard a rumor that it was just a different Artisan chip. So one of the hypotheses as to why they did this was, well, did they want to get away from Artisan, right, and go with something else? And so apparently the answer is no. They've just gone to a different Artisan chip. At least that's the claim. That's not proven as far as I know.
I was under the impression it is for sure, but maybe it is not.
It is for sure? Okay. I just don't want to overstate it. I don't want to overstate it. I also think it is for sure, but I don't want to say that and then turn out that I was talking out my ass. So the fact that you say that gives me a little more confidence. So they've gone to a different Artisan chip, which they still don't have, presumably, access like to the core. Like they just have whatever Artisan gives them. But the question is, like, and we don't know we can't answer this question. Why? Why did they do that? Was this other chip... like maybe it was, I hear it was like a very old chip. It had been around for a long time.
2017 or 2018, yeah.
Yeah.
It was released on that chip. So like very possibly end of life, which I think is what you're going to say. But I mean, it's old.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe they were the only ones like still using it. Everyone had moved on with their life because other people don't care about compatibility in the same way, or they're not doing the kind of things that require you to keep using the old hardware. But the takeaway, I think the takeaway is this. Because someone said Walksnail put out on Facebook a call for testers for the GT2 video transmitter, the Walksnail GT2 video. That's the Gen 1 system, if you want to call it that, instead of the Ascent system. And they said, "See, Bardwell, the Walksnail's not going anywhere." And I'm like, my answer was, "We'll see. Give it time." Like, I don't see any reason why they would release this new Gen 2 system if they weren't eventually planning on getting rid of the Gen 1 system, right? Their claim that, this is for beginners, that's bullshit. That's just marketing, right? There's nothing inherent about this new video system that makes it better for beginners. That's just they're just trying to get you to not question too much the reason why they've done this, is my read on it. So I think that this is a trial balloon where they're like, hey, we're working on this new system. Let's put it out in this beginner kit and test it out and see what people think and get some hardware out there. And they have said that they are going to release standalone video transmitter, and presumably they have to release standalone goggles for this new Ascent video system. And the thing is, I don't see why they would keep supporting the old one indefinitely. They're going to keep supporting the old one as long as they need to, until the new one gets to a point that they can say, this is the new one, and everybody needs to switch over. And honestly, like, when people hear that, some people who are heavily invested in the old one, I think are going to be super pissed off. I mean, that's not, hot take, Bardwell. But if you look at DJI does a generational change every, 2 years, roughly. And now, they don't break compatibility every time. Typically, they will keep compatibility one generation older. So the 03 was compatible with the Vista, the 04, and the G3 is compatible with the 03. And so basically, you get 4 years of compatibility out of a DJI system. And that's, when did Walksnail come out? 2019, I think, roughly? 2008? Not 2018. 2019, maybe 2020?
No, it has to be like 2021 or something, right? Because
really?
I started in 2019. Yeah.
2021? Okay.
That's my guess. Is 20 off the cuff here.
Maybe I can find my own video. Oh my gosh, May 2022. That's much later than I thought. All right, well, I'm glad I checked. 2022, the Dominator HD came out. Is that right? Let me double check that. Dominator, yeah. Walksnail Avatar, June 2022. My video, there you go. My video came out June 2022. Okay, so June 2022, the system released. It is now October 2025. I can't believe it's only been 3 years since this system came out. That does not feel like it could possibly be right, Blunty. Am I insane? That doesn't feel like it could be right. I guess 2021,
but yeah, it does feel like it's been a long time.
Feels like it's been around way longer than that.
A lot happened and then nothing happened. That's sort of why we stopped the news. That's my opinion. So I think that's why it feels to me like it was so long. I think you... Oh, you got it. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, sorry, the chat stopped moving. I fixed it though.
Well, just a couple questions. We've got all kinds of ranges of people in chat. We started off very knowledge forward focused. Just for people who don't know, right? Yeah. Basically, DJI has their own custom silicon made by various companies. I'm not sure who exactly right now. That's some of that has been discussed before, but basically they have their own custom silicon made for them by a company. Mm-hmm. Artisan is another video company entirely. They're just a company who made an ASIC for low latency digital video. Yes. And then Walksnail signed a contract with them to be exclusive for FPV. So somebody in chat asked, is DJI the same chips? And it's not. It's similar technology. It's a similar idea, but it is from two different places.
A long, long time ago, didn't DJI use Artisan very briefly?
No.
Never?
Not that I know of. That I know of.
My bad.
They may have come out of the same place, but I don't think an Artisan chip was ever in a DJI drone. But I could be wrong. It's been years since we've discussed this, so
yeah.
There's a lot of things to forget.
So basically, yeah. What Walksnail is doing is they're going and they're buying an off-the-shelf chip that does digital video encoding, and it's also the RF, like the RF modulation and stuff too, isn't it, Blunty? Or am I wrong about that? Do you know?
What now? I'm sorry.
Does the Artisan chip also do the RF stuff? The
yes.
Modulation? Yeah, okay. So whereas DJI is custom making one to their exact needs, and so has deeper control. And that's why Walksnail will never have as good performance as DJI. Haha, hot take. No, that was just me being silly. But going back to then we'll move to the next topic. I don't see any reason why Walksnail, because they could have released this exact same product with their existing 1S VTX. It would have been compatible. It would have been a fine product. It would have been a better product because it would have been a bridge into the Walksnail ecosystem, which is a completely valid step to take. But they did it with this new system, and they're putting dev resources into this new system, and so that tells me that eventually the current system is going to go away, and they're going to move to this new system. Otherwise, why would they do this? Unless this new system turns out to be a bust, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, never mind, unless they change their mind, which, knowing Caddx, they certainly could do that. They certainly have tried various things and said they were going to do various things and then changed their mind or not done them, or sometimes they do them, or sometimes they do some random thing that you didn't ask for, and you're like, oh, interesting, like the repeater. So it's one day we had a repeater. It was like, oh, okay, what about the other things you said you were working on? So, but the repeater's nice. That's cool. So anyway, I mean, I think that the time frame for the V1 system going away is, I would say, how long is it going to take for them to get the new system spun up to the point where it can replace the existing one completely? 2 years? I mean, the other one's only been around for 3 years, apparently. So I don't think this is imminent, but I do think that this, it's like, the analogy I made is, it's like if your girlfriend suddenly says, hey, my old boyfriend from college is in town, and I'm going to have dinner with him, and I'll be out for the night. You're like, right? And like, you trust her, but also, that's kind of a weird thing to say, right? And so here's Caddx, and they're like, hey, we got this new video system. And everybody with the current video system is like, kind of feels like you're thinking of leaving me, right? Anyway, All right, there you go. DJI, new topic. Very short, very sweet. DJI gonna get banned, right? That's a given. Is anybody not up to speed on that? You know, in December, come December, if a national security agency doesn't do an audit, and as the result of that audit, state that DJI is not a threat to national security, then DJI goes on the entities list. So that's basically going to happen, because nobody is gonna raise their hand. And they were real smart when they did this, because they didn't say the FBI must assess, the DOD, the NSA. They didn't point to a specific agency and say it is your job to evaluate whether DJI is a threat to national security. They said somebody's got to do it. And that means everybody can look around and go, is it you? Is it you? It's not me. And then just la 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 until the date passes. So DJI is going to go on the entities list, and that means that no new DJI products can get their FCC certification. Also, Customs is not importing DJI products for various reasons, and there are other moves to people even talking about giving the FCC ability to revoke existing certificates. Basically, like the writing's on the wall for DJI. Sorry, Americans, of which I am one. DJI is not in our future. I think in theory, I think that we will still see some importing of DJI products as long as there's market demand for it. The DJI drones are going to be very difficult. There are some companies who are importing them somehow and reselling them now. Whether that will still happen once they no longer have FCC certificates, it remains to be seen. They're very expensive. They're heavily marked up. It's possible that some FPV products will fly under the radar. For example, you probably will still be able to get bind and fly drones with DJI air units in them, I would guess, because I think those will fly under the radar since it's not a DJI product. We just had several vendors get stock of air units. In the last week, I saw reports that Rotor Riot, Get FPV, Race Day Quads, Fly High FPV all had O4s. Somehow there was a batch of them that got sent out. But I think that right now, I wouldn't, if I didn't already have investment in DJI stuff, I wouldn't buy into DJI today because the future in the US is so uncertain. So uncertain. I wouldn't feel confident that I would continue to be able to get equipment. So, then the question from Reed Anderson is, if DJ's getting banned, should I go Walksnail? Well, I would say that if what you want is DJI, but you can't get it, Walksnail is an acceptable substitute. Okay? Walksnail is pretty good. If DJI didn't exist, we would be very impressed with Walksnail. Walksnail is 100% usable. If you know how good DJI is, then the whole time you're using Walksnail, you're like, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, as the saying goes. You're going like, DJI would have gotten through that. But Walksnail is pretty good. If we want a DJI style digital link, Walksnail is okay. However, now that Walksnail has released this Protos kit with the Ascend video system, on some level I'm like, well, how much longer does the Walksnail system have? I think it's got a while, though. Because here's the thing. Walksnail doesn't move fast. Caddx doesn't move fast. They say, oh, we're going to release this thing, and then 6 months, 9 months, a year later, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Excuse me. They move relatively slowly. So I think that the current Walksnail system has some life in it yet. So yeah, maybe. There are times when I just think, I'm going back to analog. It's been a good run. So. All right, there you go. Other things that have happened. We got some super chats stacking up. Don't worry. Is everyone just going to have to switch to analog? Well, you don't have to. But and by the way, I said that in my review of the Protos, and one of the commenters was like, what about HDZero? You're acting like HDZero doesn't even exist. HDZero, my stance on HDZero, God bless him, is very clear and established. HDZero is the absolute tip-top choice for racing. I've done a lot of testing of HDZero in my life. More than you think, because some of it didn't make it on the channel, because I work with people in the world, and they do things, and I hear about the things they do. And like I've told this story before, I know a guy who runs a training program for his company, and they work with FPV products, and he decided to switch his program over to HDZero. And over the course of 6 months, he ran several programs. He ran several training programs. About 25 or 30 students went through his program. I'm trying to think of the numbers. And they all used HDZero, and they flew in all kinds of environments, and the conclusion was this is not up to snuff. Long story short. Like, it's not like, my point is, it's not like I haven't given HDZero a chance. Frankly, when this person said that he was putting his program on HDZero, I was like, bro, you don't want to do that. And he was like, I think it's the way. I was like, okay, tell me how it goes. And then 6 months later, he was like, no, it was a bad choice. Penetration, range, etc., no good. So my point is, HDZero, fantastic for racing. Not so good for everything else. Maybe, like, obviously you can. There are people who do. But my personal take that I put into the world and that I use for myself is, for freestyle and fun flying, DJI, Walksnail, analog, I'm just, so. What about, oh my God, so many questions. Okay, I'll stop rambling and we'll get to the questions. What about Don Jr. joining? Don Jr. didn't join Skydio's board. It was Unusual Machines. It was Unusual Machines. John Jr. is not on the board of Unusual Machines. He is on an advisory board. Okay, that's different. An advisory board is not the board of directors. It's still relevant, but I do want to get the facts straight. Oh, what a handsome man. As advisor to Unusual Machines in November 2024. Little-known drone company backed by Don Trump Jr. has won its largest contract from the Pentagon. By the way, Trump Jr. holds a $4 million stake in Unusual Machines. And that's relevant because I heard people saying, oh, that means that Unusual Machines paid, they basically bribe, is the unspoken, that Unusual Machines paid Don Jr. so that then he would funnel contracts to their company through his connections to the government. And that is not the way the money has flowed. Trump Jr. holds a $4 million stake in Unusual Machines. That means that Trump Jr. paid $4 million to Unusual Machines to buy stock in the company. And now he has a motivation to make the company successful. No, the implication that Trump Jr.'s involvement means that Unusual Machines has a finger on the scale, that is accurate. But it's not that they paid him. He bought in. And that is a little bit different. Right? That is a little bit different. So, yeah. The Army's ordering from Unusual Machines. Trump Jr. tied to Unusual Machines and Rotor Riot. Unusual Machines owns Rotor Riot, for those who wonder what the hell this has to do with FPV. Oh. Alan Evans said the president's son had continued to invest in recent fundraising, so he may hold more than $4 million. Anyway. Don has never communicated with anyone in the administration on behalf of Unusual Machines or about the contract in question. His advisory role has nothing to do with interfacing with the government. Okay, yeah, that sounds true. I definitely don't think that is technically correct, but still somewhere there's a finger on the scale. Nevertheless, that's pure supposition based on no facts. So I'll just shut up.
YouTube feed.
Yeah, I know. It crashes sometimes. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do about that. Oh, anyway, so those are things that are happening in the world. And now we're back. Yeah, I was surprised at the amount of the investment. When I heard that he came on as an advisor, my first thought was that Rotor Riot had paid him to take a token role as an advisor just so that they could say that he was an advisor and that would be good for their marketing. And then I found out that he actually bought in and it was an investor in the company. And I was like, oh, well, that means that he's decided this company is going to... Like, if you invest $4 million in a company, you think the company is going to be successful. And that certainly means something. How's Unusual Machine stock? How's it doing? Let's see. 5-year stock. Oh, I don't know. Can I just see the stock price? 2025, 5-year. Yeah. It's kind of neither here nor there. It's kind of, I mean, it's higher than it was in, this doesn't look like 5 years. 1 year? Yeah. It's up. It's not the highest it's ever been. It's doing okay. God bless him. Could Unusual Machines have said no thank you? No publicly traded company is going to say no thank you to a $4 million investment. That's not how publicly traded companies work. Publicly traded companies have an obligation to the investors to make decisions. Like, I'm not an expert on like the responsibility of like the SEC and so forth, but in general, a publicly traded company has an obligation to do things that make money for its investors. If they don't, they can get in trouble with the SEC. And now the SEC, like, it doesn't appear to be doing a lot currently, so maybe it wouldn't matter. But like, a publicly traded company isn't going to turn down a $4 million investment without a gosh darn good reason. So, no, obviously. I don't think it's a fiduciary responsibility. I think that's different. But anyway. All right. Let's take questions. Let's go on. Good to be back. Why do you not recommend to use a compass on a drone? That's not exactly how I would put it. The 12 Force. I should do super chats. I'll do super chats next. Sorry, guys. A compass is, if you don't calibrate the compass correctly, it makes problems. And on very small drones, like 5-inch and below, it's very difficult to get clean compass readings. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. Betaflight and iNav can both do position hold and return to home without a compass. It's not as good. What happens is when the drone is loitering, slowly its awareness of its own heading drifts and becomes inaccurate. As long as the drone is flying forward, it can estimate which direction it's facing. But as soon as you loiter, like I did a test where I used Betaflight pause hold without a compass, and I just did pause hold, and after about 6 minutes, it kind of started to toilet bowl a little bit, and by about 8 or 9 minutes, it was toilet bowling bad, and I had to take it out of pause hold. And then I flew straight forward for 100 meters this way and 100 meters that way, and it reset the attitude, its awareness of its own attitude, its own position. Heading is the word. And then it was fine, and I could do it for another. But if you had a compass, you could just loiter forever, okay? But in a lot of builds, you'll get good enough position hold and so forth without a compass, and then you don't have to go through the hassle of calibrating a compass. It's better if you have a compass. For example, if you often fly sideways, like if you do a lot of car chasing and you're regularly flying sideways next to the car, then you would need a compass because your heading estimation is not correct unless you're flying straight forward. But in general, I don't oppose putting a compass on a build, but if I can get away with not using a compass because I just know that the drone doesn't require it, I won't bother. Super chats. I said I would do super chats. Okay. When updating from 4.5 to 25.12, can I import the diff all and fix the things that show up as errors? Yes, sort of, but you have to be careful. Like, according to a commenter on Madstech's YouTube video, one of the D term parameters has changed. The name of the parameter is the same, but the way it's interpreted is different. So that if you paste in your old PID tune, your D gain will be way too high and you could like fry your motors. So, yeah. In general, you can paste most of it in. But in general, what I'll do when upgrading to a new Betaflight version is I'll paste in my ports tab, I'll paste in my OSD, I'll paste in my aux modes, I'll paste in stuff like that that I know is safe. But anything related to PID tuning and so forth, I will manually copy the values into the CLI. Into the GUI rather than paste in the CLI just because it can create issues. Okay, Super Chats. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your time off from streaming for a bit, and we missed you. Thank you for $5, Shoot FPV. Yeah, I missed you guys too. Some of it was that I was working. I had a couple of jobs, and it was travel for 2 weeks, come back for a week. Travel for 2 weeks, come back for a week. And I was just like, I can't do this. Especially because I was leaving on Sunday, coming back on Saturday. And some of it was just then, like, I got back, and I've been home almost all of October. And, like, it was just such a relief to get to the weekend and not be like, oh, God, I'm getting on a plane or I'm driving somewhere. It was such a relief to go into the weekend and have no responsibilities that I was like, well, I'd like to stream. But then I was like, oh, wait, what if I didn't? So it was very nice and it was good. Good sound, good video. Thank you, Brian Chambers, for $5. I'm just going to have to scrap all this audio shit and start from scratch. Is that what I'm gonna have to do? That would suck. I have a lot of, well, not actually a lot of money. I hope the mic isn't damaged. For fuck's sake, I hope the mic isn't damaged. Pardon my French. Sorry, French people. That's just a thing we say in America. Have you built or flown any new planes since the T1? C. Joe, thank you for $2. No, but I have a Chupito over here that I want to build. I have a Chupito. I haven't built it. I'm going to build it. I actually built a T2. My T1 is down because all the servos in one of the wings fried. I have replacement servos. I just haven't gotten to the trouble of fixing them. My T2, I have a T2 I built. I didn't actually make a video about it. Yeah. And I'm going to build the Chupito. That's the next one I'm going to build. How are the goats? Kim Fused FPV. Thank you, Kim Fused, for a very generous $20 donation. The goats are no longer with us. Now, that doesn't mean they're dead. The goats, we rehomed the goats. The reason why we rehomed the goats are not important. We basically decided that it was time to find them a new home. Okay, one of the reasons we rehomed the goats is that one of the goats was an asshole. And he was such an asshole that he was being a dick to the other goats. Like, we would put food in and he would butt them away. And I know to some degree, like, that's just, like, how goats are. But one of the goats is just the sweetest little thing. And the other goat is an elderly goat that had a mate that died. And then it was alone and it was lonely. And we said to the owner, come, we'll take that goat in and he can stay. So we have this sweet elderly goat and this lovely little young goat. And this other goat was just being a dick to both of them. So we were like, well, let's get rid of him. So we gave him to a guy who has a goat. You know, the goats come and they eat your underbrush and they clear out your underbrush, right? He had one of those services. And so now this dwarf goat is in a big herd with a bunch of bigger goats. And I hope that he learned his place. That he is no longer the asshole. And he has to figure out how to get along. But he's just going around hanging out with other goats eating. And then we had the other two goats and we found a new home for them as well. My wife decided that they weren't getting the care that they needed. She wasn't able to get out there and take care of them as much as she would have liked to, and just decided they'd be better off somewhere else. So we don't have goats anymore. And then what's going to happen is in 1 or 2 years, my wife will look at all the poison ivy in the woods and be like, we should get goats again. And that's okay. I'm okay with it. Jeffrey Himmelspach, thank you for $20. Just to thank you for all your work and for the help this week setting up a gimbal on my long-range drone. I'm glad I could help you. Thank you. Thank you for the donation. Got 100 rupees here from Pradipta Shanu. Which ESC would you prefer for the 533 Lightswitch Pro? I think the Foxier Reaper would be my go-to for a racing flight controller and ESC because that seems to be what a lot of racing pilots use. It's very reliable and very durable and good performance. What about the Skystar KM55A? I have no opinion of the Skystar KM55A. It could be good. It could be bad. If I really care, I would go with a known quantity. Misty at Rampage. Thank you, FPV Candy. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it to Rampage. I had in January, my wife said, there's a trip that I want the family to go on in October. It was a camping trip that we went to. And those were the dates. That was the exact weekend. And so when I found out when Rampage was scheduled, I was like, oh, I can't go to that, unfortunately. So, yeah. So most of the things that my family does are negotiable. Like if my wife says, oh, there's a trip, and I'm like, I can't do it. I have a thing. Sometimes she'll just take the kids and go without me. And but this one trip every year is like, nope, that one you're going on. And it's like non-negotiable. So sounds like Rampage was a really good time, though. Maximilian Shug, thank you for €5. Frame with prop guards, recommendation for chasing boats and things on lakes. Why does it need prop guards? Okay, you wanted to have prop guards. I think that if you're chasing boats and things on a lake, you probably want something like a 5-inch or bigger. Just because boats can go fast. I guess they don't go the mostest fast. But especially also you want flight time, right? I'm going to want to go out there. I'm not going to want to fly for 2 minutes and then, oh shit, my battery's low and I go down in the water, right? So, yeah. But most of the time, if you want prop guards, you're not going to be flying a 5-inch. You know? You're going to be flying like a 3-inch tinywhoop at most. So, is a 3-inch going to work for you? Safety near people on the boat that you're launching from. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Crom says, I doubt anything with prop guards could reliably keep up with a boat. I'm not going to say that universally. Like, there are some fast 3-inch racing drones. But you're going to be carrying a camera. Yeah. I think the thing to do is to go with a 5-inch or a 7-inch that's going to have the speed and endurance to actually chase the boats. And then solve the launching and landing problem somehow. Right? Like, are you saying that there's... Like, okay, so... I've hand launched. I've taught people how to hand launch a drone, okay? It is 100% possible to safely hand launch a drone. Now, is it more dangerous than not hand launching? Yes. Like, you know, but like you wake up and you get out of bed, and that's more dangerous than if you'd stayed in bed. We all make decisions about risk with our life. What I would do in your situation is, number one, I would test hover the drone before I get on the boat. So now I am 100% sure the props are on correct. The drone is going to hover. It's not going to try to flip out on me, okay? So I've test hovered the drone. The drone is now checked out. It's now safe to hand launch. I would have a partner on the boat who is trained in safe hand launching procedure. Battery goes on the drone. Battery plugged in. Okay? Good video. Ready to go. He grabs the drone, right? He's got the drone, or she. The way you do it is they securely hold the drone. They lift the drone over their head. Their fingers are free of the props. They hold the drone over their head. You arm. You slowly raise throttle, and they begin to feel the drone pull. And here's the key thing you got to teach them. Because what some people will do is the minute they start to feel the drone pull, they release the drone, and then the drone goes and potentially hits the ground or the water. They got to wait till they really feel it pulling itself away from them, and then they just release the drone, and it flies away. And you're good to go. And I've done that. I've had situations where we weren't able to just put the drone on the ground and take off, and so I was doing hand launches with another pilot. I was holding the drone, he was flying. And we just did hand launches all day, and nothing came of it. But you got to be real careful. Like if you change a prop, you better be real sure that you put the right prop on. Otherwise, as soon as it arms, it's going to try and flip out, and potentially you're going to hurt somebody. Likewise, landing, here's how you land. You fly the drone in. There's a dude. He's standing like this. Maybe he has like a towel or a blanket or something. Maybe he's just got his arms. He's standing like this. You approach him, and as you get close, you fly high. You fly above his head so that if anything goes wrong, you fly over his head and not into his face, hopefully. And then you just disarm, boop, and he catches it. Is that a little bit dangerous? Yes. You don't be armed near him. As soon as you get within like 3 feet of him and you're over his head, he says, disarm, and you disarm, and he catches it. And that's how you catch it. Is it? Yeah. So, like, that's how I would approach that problem. Because here's the thing. If you have prop guards on a 5-inch, you can still mess somebody up. Prop guards aren't like just magical, you can still mess somebody up, right? Okay.
Why not? I mean, how bad is the sea where you're going? Are you trying to launch while you're driving? Is that the problem? Like, you could just put a float out and fly off the float, land on the float, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a lot safer. I feel like there's ways to prepare for this, right? You could get some kind of stool or something that people stand away from, or like you don't have to hand catch this shit. Like you can plan ahead. That's what I'm saying. I think hand catching is just adding annoyance and the risk factor and insurance issues, and that's my opinion.
Well, that's a smart thing to say, Blunty. That's a wise thing to say. A big float that you could land on, sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then Madstech says when you catch it, you could catch it with a fishnet, like a catch net. Just have it land inside of a fishnet and disarm into it.
Yeah. There's various ways to solve this problem. My fundamental takeaway is this: 2 things. Number 1, a small drone with prop guards is probably not going to have the speed or endurance that you want. It's not impossible, but you're going to be fighting it. It's going to be annoying. A 5-inch or a 7-inch is going to have much more headroom and performance. And the other thing is that the reason a small drone is safer is because of its small props, not really because of its prop guards. They do make a difference. But you put prop guards on a 5-inch and it'll still F you up. Those prop guards, unless you have like real ducts, like the old style tinywhoops, if it's just a little prop guard, that just bangs out of the way and the prop hits you anyway. So, yeah. All right. Anyway.
Hey, can I make it? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Blunty.
No, go ahead. Let's finish super chats.
Could there be a problem if I mount the GPS with compass on the arm above the motor cables? Yes. The compass should ideally be away from all moving current. That's not always possible, but it's always better to keep it away from current. Okay? Yeah. The motor cables carry a lot of current and will F up your compass for sure. I would love to get a quick breakdown. Thank you, Aphidasia, for $20. Quick breakdown of what you think someone new to the hobby should do in 2025 going into 2026. It seems hard to get some of the supplies. Still catching up on your videos. In the United States, I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty right now. There's a part of me that just thinks I would just build analog and be... Analog is right now the most future-proof because DJI is going to get banned and Walksnail is potentially threatening a generational shift. If you really want to go digital, go Walksnail. Express LRS is the control link to use, no question. And then as far as parts go, you're just going to use what you can get a hold of and hope to God that this 100% tariff doesn't go through on November 1st. I think I heard that maybe there was going to be some taco action on that, and he was going to like change his mind and not do it. I hope to God that that's true, because 100% tariff on everything from China is going to suck. And if you're not in the United States, you know, have fun. Just do whatever you want. Because you can actually get this stuff, although it's still, you know, it's you have your own problems, but yeah. Okay, Blunty, go ahead.
Okay, just a quick. I don't know who's hearing this. I'm sure hopefully there's a new people in the chat to hear this. Okay, PSA: please stop building 8S 5-inch drones. Please stop.
Why?
Thank you.
Why? Why don't you like power and speed?
I don't like failing equipment, untested hardware, and issues with these things. And I'm tired of dealing with them. And I'm tired of new people building them because they think they're the fastest drone you can buy, and they need to be 8S on 5-inch because, God, I can't. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I just...
No, beginners should not build 8S on 5-inch.
But that's who's doing it. I mean,
that's dumb.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
It's primarily beginners. I keep seeing beginners build 8S 5-inch. And
I had
8S 7-inch, but I've seen these things on 8S 7-inch a lot without tuning too.
Yeah, 8S.
I just think like
8S is overkill. Beginners shouldn't touch 8S.
Box on this stuff, it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't work like the other drones work. You have a higher risk. You're closer to the voltage limits again because we're back to the issue we had with 6S on 6S ESCs. Like, you know, it's fine, but you're just closer to that voltage limit. Spikes are going to be worse for the equipment.
Well, and the performance gain is completely irrelevant to a beginner, right? Absolutely. Yes. 6S 5-inch is fine. 6S 7-inch is fine.
Yeah, what I say is build your 6S Dream drone or whatever, and if you're really having an issue the way you fly, somehow you're super heavy and you're sagging and you can't solve it some other way, then we'll come back to it. But there's so few people that actually need an 8S 5-inch drone. Like you're not doing you're just not doing things that need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and as a beginner, you're not prepared. It's like you know, hey, I bought my 16-year-old his first car. It's a 800 horsepower supercharged Mustang. You don't have the skill to manage the power. Not only do you not need it, quote unquote need, what's need? This is a hobby, right? But you're not doing yourself any favors. You're giving yourself something that will only make trouble for you. Not just in terms of your piloting skill. You may be the best pilot in the world. I can handle the speed. But you don't know how to select equipment that's not going to fry. Like my AOS, my AOS 200 mile an hour drone, right? I put the Rotor Riot stack in it. Burned up the ESC, burned up the motors. And it was on 8S. That ESC is supposed to be 8S rated. Well, and I'm not even talking about like I'm doing like high speed runs or whatever. I'm talking about, well, okay. Someone had done high speed runs. They had done one run to 75% throttle, according to the DVR that I found on the air unit after the, I don't know if you saw that video. Blunty, did you see that video?
I did not.
Yeah. So I sent my 200 mile an hour drone that crashed because I didn't realize a nuance of how failsafe worked, and I accidentally failsafed it while I was testing Return to Home. I sent it to Skip, a tradies FPV from 533. He has a service. He builds and repairs drones, and he was coming over to my house, and I was going to sell him a radio for $100. And he came over, and I said, "Hey, I just had a thought. How much would you charge me to fix this drone? I want to fly this drone again. I just can't get around to putting it back together. I've had other shit to do, but I really would like it to be done." And he was like, "I'll trade you for the radio." So he traded me $100 to put this drone back together. And he came and he dropped it off at my house when I wasn't there. I got home, I pull out the drone, and I go and I start checking out the air unit, making sure everything's working. There's footage on the air unit of somebody taking this drone to like 200 miles an hour. Or 160, 170 miles an hour. It didn't quite hit full throttle. Now, that wasn't me, because like that would not be legal. And so like it was very curious. He said it wasn't him either, so I don't know what happened. But the footage was there. Anyway, when I took it out to fly it, I was like, okay, well, let's see what it, and I put it in the air, and I was just hovering, and I flipped it out of angle mode or into angle mode, I don't remember, and then boop, it just boop, 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 and the ESC burned. So my point is, 8S stuff is more likely to fry. I wouldn't use the Rotor Riot ESC on 8S anymore. Certainly not on a 200 mile an hour build. Maybe it was still hot from those runs that pilot did. Although how long is it going to stay hot? But anyway, yeah. Stick to 6S. Stick to 6S. You'll be fine. I had a guy, he emailed me and he was like, hello, I am building a drone. It is a 15-inch octocopter. Can you tell me how to wire up the receiver? Or something. You're like, what battery do I need? And I'm like, stop. Do not proceed. Like, I don't want to gatekeep. But, and like, obviously, like, the first time you build a 15-inch drone, you're going to have questions. But, like, you should already know how to wire up the receiver. Or you should not be building a 15-inch octo.
Yeah, somebody the other day asked me about a 13. I had the same response. My rule is above 7. Anything above 7, I don't help with because, like, unless it's an advanced question with some
unless you demonstrate to me that you already know. If you know 75% of what you need to know, and you just need help with the last 10 or 15%, okay.
Correct. You shouldn't be learning to set up Betaflight with me on a 10-inch drone. You shouldn't be learning to bind a receive on a 10-inch drone. It's just not like you should have some weird little quirk like you didn't know about or something. That's fine. Yeah.
And I had one person, and again, I don't want to be a dick, but also there's a time to draw a line. I want to be supportive. He was like, "Well, what milliamp hour battery should I use?" And I was like, you haven't told me what motor you're using. You haven't told me what your motor kV is. I don't know your battery voltage. I can't answer that question. And this was a guy who's building a 15-inch octocopter. He said, well, I got some 2205 motors at 2800 kV. And I was like, stop! Do not proceed! He was like, well, what motor should I use? I was like, nope! Nope, I'm not going to take you one more step down the path to making a big mistake that will cause... I'm trying to save you, sir. I don't mean to be an asshole and gatekeep, but it will be bad for your wallet and potentially your legal liability if you actually build this drone. So, anyway, let's continue. When you're upgrading to Betaflight, should you just take screenshots of every page? Yeah. I mean... Certainly, like, what I would do is I would just try to research, like, what was going on if I really cared. But most people aren't going to do that. So I would probably screenshot the PIDs and the filters. Betaflight's PID sort of engine hasn't radically changed since, like, 4.5 for sure, maybe 4.4. So, like, your fundamental PID gains probably are going to still work. There have been some changes to feed forward, though. Like, I know that they changed the whole feed forward engine. And so, like, I know for a fact that if you just paste in your PID tune, some of the things aren't going to follow through. And I think it's better to screenshot the GUI and manually type the numbers in or move the sliders, because then the underlying CLI options are going to be adjusted correctly because the configurator will know what to do. Many parts of the Betaflight config can just be pasted in, but the key is that you have to learn and which parts they are and not paste in the parts that aren't safe. And for the PID tune, it really is better to just I think it's better. It's too much of risk of shit going wrong if you paste the CLI in. It's better to screenshot the PIDs and filters and just manually type them in. Should you use LC filters on analog builds? No. I haven't seen anybody using LC filters. Long time ago, like, you absolutely can get very clean video without an LC filter. I think if you need an LC filter, like, obviously, if you use it and it works for you, it doesn't have any downside other than size and weight. But I think that generally an LC filter is like a bandage on your electrical system is kind of effed up anyway, and it'd be better to just try and clean up your electrical system. Will the new Caddx video system trickle down to FPV builders like us? Yes. Well, Caddx has said that they're going to build standalone air units and goggles. And maybe they will. But I have to point out, and I say this with no hate in my heart, but I just realistically, Caddx has said that they're going to do a lot of things. Some of them they've done, some of them they haven't done. So when Caddx says we're going to develop this new product, I don't hold my breath. I wait and see. You know? Famously, Caddx said they were working on an HDMI input video transmitter. That's very exciting. That would be very exciting if it existed. It doesn't exist. I believe that they were working on it. But when a company says in public, we are working on a product, a lot of people then go, okay, when can I buy it? The implication is that there will come a day when you can buy it. And if they often say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're working on this, and then they don't do it, then, like, you just get a little bit of skepticism. That's fine. You just kind of got to know what you're dealing with. It's like if you... Yeah.
I was going to say, at this point, it feels like the boy who cried wolf, but for, like, FPV products that are good for consumers or whatever, right? Because, like, I don't know, we just repeatedly get, like... And I'll just say, I personally think 50 to 70% of their issue is messaging. It's literally just messaging.
Absolutely.
If you hadn't promised these things, if you hadn't pitched it a certain way, if you hadn't said like, "Oh, something amazing is coming," and then Ascent comes out a year and a half later, like, like you have to plan properly, right? They promised people a Walksnail X extension into the goggles. Everybody's freaking out about why isn't there one for Ascent? Right. You literally just should have put out a statement ahead of the release of the product explaining where the module board is. Why didn't you make it, or why are you going to make it? What is the planned time frame on it? Right? You just explain it for the consumer, so these questions are answered and they're not needed to be asked, but instead everybody's going, "Where's my board? Why don't they connect?" And some people are going, "The system sucks, so they don't need to release it." And it's just a mess.
If they released the Ascent video system and they had released it with a statement that said, "Our intention," don't even say that you are going to do it, but say, "We intend, when the time is right, to release a module for the Goggles X that will allow the Goggles X to work with the Ascent video system," then everybody who has the Goggles X would breathe easy, you know? And then you could have the choice. Or, we intend to continue supporting the current hardware for a minimum of 18 months, and maybe longer. Like, these are the kind of things that a company that was better at their public messaging would do. And then obviously you have to do those things, right? You can't just say it and then not live up to it. But they're it seems like Caddx doesn't know. It's like when George Costanza was like, "Was that wrong? Was I not supposed to do that?" Because I got to tell you, it's like Caddx releases a product that pisses everybody off in a very predictable way. And they're like, "Oh, wow, did not see that coming." Like, come on, Caddx, get the messaging straightened out. Anyway. Is it possible to repair an ESC on a tinywhoop AIO? Possible for somebody, probably not for you. You have to be able to do surface mount soldering. You have to find what's broken, which is its own skill, and then desolder and replace the component. Most people would not be able to do it. Do you think the Ascent system has more headroom for latency improvements as well as bandwidth, and this recent release is just a test case for Caddx? Yes, absolutely, I think that. Caddx's systems have gotten much, much better since the day they were released. I have every confidence that the Ascent system today is the worst it will ever be, and that it will only get better from here. How good will it get? I don't know. I can't imagine a reason why Caddx would release a video system just for beginners and then leave it shitty just for beginners. Like, let's make a comparison. HDZero released their video transmitter that works with the analog cameras, right? They're not the MIPI, it's not a MIPI cable, okay? There are two cameras that HDZero has that they're specifically for tinywhoops, right? So these cameras are smaller, lighter, and less expensive. So here's a case where HDZero has released a system that is worse in some ways, but it's a trade-off that it has like less cost and lighter weight. Right? There's a reason they did it. In this case, the Ascent video system Is it less expensive? Is it? They say it's for beginners. There's not, again, it's not clear messaging. But there's no way in which it is beginner focused. Specifically, like what is a video system for beginners? Is the reason that it's so inexpensive the new chip? I don't know. They just say it's for beginners, and they don't elaborate on what about it makes it right for beginners, and that makes me think that they're not telling the whole story. What advice do you have for noobs with regard to U.S. regulations, the DJI ban, and buying when stuff's out of stock? My advice is don't stress about regulations. Like, get your trust test. Sure. If you want, register your drones. But realistically, if you fly places where you're not pissing anybody off and you don't do dumb shit like fly near sports stadiums and airplanes, there is ample opportunity for you to enjoy the FPV hobby without ever encountering the FAA or law enforcement. Now, it sounds like what I'm advising you to do is to ignore the rules and just try to fly under the radar. That would be irresponsible of me. I'm just making an observation, right? If you get in trouble and you get caught, the fines are substantial. That may not be a risk that you want to take. But I will tell you, there's a whole lot of people out there who are, they're not registering their drones. They're not putting remote ID on their drones. And the FAA's got better things to do than hunt them all down. And if you would like to be one of those people, then probably you're rolling the dice. But that may be a thing you're happy to do. And I say that because people get so stressed out about all of the rules. And it's like, don't stress. Learn about the rules. Comply with the rules to the degree that you're comfortable. I register my drones. I put remote ID on my drones. It's annoying, but it's just what I feel like I have to do because I have a big target on my back. Many people don't have a big target on their back. If you live in an urban area and you fly at parks where every time you fly there's a risk that you're potentially going to lose control and hit a car or hit a person. By the way, that's not a great idea, but like that is a thing that people do. Well, maybe you should follow the rules a little more, just so that the worst doesn't happen to you. If you live in a remote area and you fly over somebody's field, somebody's farm field, I mean, there'd be a temptation to be just like, none of this matters. I'm just going to do my thing. As far as the regulations go, it's not that big a deal. Get your trust test. Register your drones at FAA Drone Zone. Actually, if you're recreational, you just register yourself. You get an FAA number. Put the FAA number on the drone. Put a remote ID device on the drone. That's basically the extent of the rules. And then, there are rules about where you can fly. Stay under 400 feet. Don't fly near prisons. And use the before you fly or the autopilot app to see if it's safe. It's legal to fly where you are. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks, interesting, I could do a video, how to fly legally in the U.S. Because people think it's super complicated, but as I think about it, tell me if you disagree. It's basically like 5 or 6 steps. I just named them. Did I miss anything major that you can think of?
I don't know. Local regulation is the one thing you have to still be concerned about.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, the FAA has what they call preemption, which means they have rights over all the airspace down to the blade of grass. That's what they claim. However, local people don't care about that, and they make rules that are ancillary that will get you in trouble instead. So if there's no drones posted at a park, you take off outside of the park, you fly around the park, and you land outside the park, right? You're not in violation of a state rule because there's preemption in the FAA, but they might think you are. They might take you to court. You might have to fight through 3 or 4 groups of court systems up to a point in which they recognize the FAA preemption. You might have to pay all those court cases all the way up, right? So you're deciding, like you talked about the whole time, you're deciding at each step what rules you follow.
Right.
But often local rules are made on purpose. and people will be more apt to police them because they're made locally on purpose. Somebody doesn't like people flying at that park, and that's why there's a no drones at that park rule. So those are the things I would be more paying attention to. Like, most people who don't come up to you don't know what remote ID is, but they know if you're supposed to be flying at this park according to the local municipality, right? That sort of thing. That's where I would go with it. But otherwise, like you said, it's very simple. Like, really, all you're supposed to have is a sticker of your identification on your drone and the trust test and know your community-based organization rules, right? And then you go fly, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not
that's a good point.
Loft.
I left that out. You're supposed to fly according to the rules of your CBO, community-based organization. There's safety policies, safety protocols of the CBO. That is a requirement in the regulation. The FPV Freedom Coalition is a community-based organization with a published safety protocol that you could be following. Worth pointing out.
We're hopefully in the next few months, we're going to update it to be a little more user-friendly when you see it, because right now it's legalese, and we're going to try to make it, refile it and make it a little better for people to come to the site and get a better idea of, like, what do you need to fly? And then all the jargon under that. Because legally, it's like a binding document, but
I got to tell you, like, if you asked me, like, I read the safety protocol published by the FPV Freedom Coalition when it first came out. I got to tell you, when I fly at my house, I don't pull that thing out and, like, confirm that I'm following every single rule. I, like, as long as I stay on my property, I'm like, I could probably do whatever I want. You know? I don't know.
While we're we're already in the law semantics, right? So again, you have to get in trouble for this stuff, right? So somebody has to, like, think you don't need to be there, right? And then somebody has to come that knows anything about it, right? And they might handle it in a bunch of different ways. But, like, stuff like CBO rules, the layer you have to get down to for somebody to even know what that is pretty rare. Right. You might get a cop who's super educated, but most people are just going to go, like, do you have a license to fly this drone, or why are you out here? And then you're going to explain why, and then they're going to go back and forth, and maybe there's a surveillance rule you violated, or some Karen called, and then you're going to try to resolve it, right? It's going to be a one-on-one thing based on the situation. It's not like a hard-pressed, like, here's what's going to happen.
So that's my advice, I guess, is my advice.
Yes. Real quick, I just want to say one more thing. So he also said the upcoming DJI ban, like in the question. And I just want to say, we if you want to go earlier in the stream, we talked a lot about these topics and stuff. But one thing in the chat that people keep mentioning is they think that somehow they're going to brick DJI drones. No. I just want to be clear about this. Number one, DJI has no incentive to do that.
DJI could do that.
They could do that. They absolutely could. I think they have no incentive to do that, okay? Number two, right now you can use a VPN and activate your device anywhere in the world. There's no, it's just IP-based. So even if the US IPs were banned, for instance, you could use a VPN to activate somewhere else.
The DJI drone knows where it is because it has GPS. That's true. Sorry. That's true for DJI drones like the Mavic, the Air, etc. Not for DJI FPV products. They do not have GPS. They do not have any interaction with the GPS on your drone. The DJI Air unit doesn't know where you are. The goggles do. The goggles Integra and goggles 3 have GPS built in for remote ID. So technically the goggles could know where you are, even if you, but they don't. But
this is assuming that DJI, who does not want the ban in the first place, would comply with some government action to try to get them to do this when they're not even allowed to in the first place. So I'm not sure why they would ever do that, right? But the other realistic thing is just that, maybe the FCC certs will get pulled. So if you're trying to do something professionally, that might become a little more difficult with that drone. That's what I would say. I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah. Okay. What's the best quality radio from RadioMaster, like the plastic of the radio, and what is it compared to Futaba? I can't compare RadioMaster to Futaba. I've never owned a Futaba. Futaba, by all accounts, makes very high quality radios. However, Futaba is focused on the traditional RC world, and there definitely has been some massive price inflation of radios in the traditional fixed wing RC world. We see radios. Like, I remember getting into the hobby way back when and seeing, like, an 8-channel radio for, $500, etc. And, 16-channel radio for $1,200. And then I found a $60 Chinese radio, which ran OpenTX and had 32 channels, and you got 16 channels, etc., etc. And the point is that this $60 radio was not to the same build quality in terms of its soldering and QC, but in terms of capabilities, it had way more functionality than even a $1,200 Futaba radio, okay? Because it was open source software. And so when you look at a $800, $1,000, $1,200 Futaba radio, some of that price is the quality control, the soldering, etc. But how much of it? It ultimately, like, what's in a Futaba radio is just basic electronics. It's switches, it's gimbals. The hardware that goes into it, the design that goes into a Futaba radio is not worth $1,200. And so some of what they're charging for is that years ago they figured out that you could charge $200 more to go from 8 channels to 12 channels or something like that. They've stratified their price range, and their customers are willing to go with it because their customers don't want to buy cheap Chinese POS radios that they don't trust. They're banking on their reputation. That's my take on it. And I don't think that the build quality of if you look inside a RadioMaster radio, they're very well built. Like, maybe they were a little bit less well built back in the old days. Like, I recently swapped out the antennas on my GX12, and I was so impressed. Inside the GX12, all the ways that the wires are routed, like the wires go through a little retaining clip on the circuit board, or the wires are like zip tied down so they're not loose. Like, so much care is taken inside this radio. There are labels for all the plugs and stuff so that if you like, and there you can see that there are QC test points, right? There's a place where it says screw goes here. Like, this is, the RadioMaster radios are not just like slapped together cheap Chinese POS. So much thought and care has gone into the design. And if you open one up, you can see that. The solder joints are impeccable. Now, I can't say that RadioMaster QC and industrial design is on the level of Futaba. I don't have experience with Futaba radios. I don't know what their failure rate is. But I can say that RadioMaster is very good. And the fact that it's inexpensive speaks more to the fact that it's not, well, first of all, it's a Chinese product. It's an open source product, the software. And it's in the FPV world where customers are very, very price conscious. So there's this downward pressure on the price. And also, it hasn't had years and years and years to stratify and build up price and get customers used to paying $1,200. Oh, I have a Futaba. It's $1,200. You know? So, yeah. So as far as quality goes, any of the newer radios, the GX12, the T15, the Boxer, like, not that the older radios are bad, just that those radios, they're going to have the latest in terms of the gimbals and the design, and they're just very, very good. And you just pick whichever one you like. None of them are bad. I would put the AIO1 gimbals up against anything Futaba makes. Saying that, by the way, as someone who's never flown a Futaba, so I could be talking out, probably am talking out my ass, but those are very good gimbals.
Can you answer the next question? Oh, perfect.
This one? I bought a Spektrum controller and returned a Boxer RadioMaster. It was recommended from a friend. Was that the right choice for FPV? No, that was the wrong choice. You've made a mistake. I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but there's no question that you've made a mistake. The Spektrum radio is a good radio, but the Spektrum ecosystem, no one in the FPV world is in the Spektrum ecosystem. No one. Obviously, that's a I say FPV. When I say FPV, some people who fly airplanes. Spektrum is much more popular in the airplane world. One reason is that airplanes are typically flown line of sight. So Spektrum has fine range and penetration for line of sight flying, because how far can you go before the airplane just is out of sight? You can't see it anymore. Spektrum doesn't have the range and penetration of something like Express LRS or Crossfire. Spektrum doesn't have the range and penetration that is competitive when you're flying FPV and you're potentially flying behind obstacles or inside a building through walls. So it's going to give you worse range and penetration, and everyone in FPV is using EdgeTX, and that radio ecosystem is just sort of where the community is together. So when you look for help, it's going to be a lot harder to find help on something to do with Spektrum than like EdgeTX, a RadioMaster radio, a jumper radio. I say everyone flies FPV, and the implication there is people flying drones. There absolutely are people who fly airplanes with FPV on them, and some of those people fly Spektrum because Spektrum is much more popular in the fixed wing line of sight world. And so then when those people get into FPV, they put an FPV camera and video transmitter on their plane, and they keep their Spektrum receiver. So like those people are absolutely, I don't mean to suggest that those people aren't like in the FPV community, but just the vast majority of people flying FPV are not flying Spektrum because most people flying FPV are flying drones, and most people flying FPV drones are using HDZero radios. So with that Spektrum controller, you will have less functionality from the controller. EdgeTX is more functional. It can do more things in terms of programming. You will have a harder time finding tutorials about how to set up and program the radio. You will have worse range and penetration. You will have far more expensive receivers that have worse range and penetration. Yeah. The other reason that you see a lot of Spektrum in the fixed wing world is Spektrum makes bind and fly airplanes that just bind to the Spektrum controller and it's good to go. And the FPV world doesn't really believe in that. That's a joke. Let's check super chats. We got a couple more super chats coming in. Thank you for $20 from Martinel Zingre. Good to see you back. Do you think the hobby's in a bit of a lull? Seems like less new stuff, or maybe I'm not paying attention. That's hard to say. That's hard to say. I don't know. That's hard to say. I think that probably yes. There's less innovation. There are fewer companies. There's been some consolidation. Thank you for 100 rupees from... I don't know how to say your name. Which one should I pick? GEPRC Mark V DC or DeepSpace Seeker 5 DC? I don't know the DeepSpace Seeker 5. I do know the GEPRC Mark V, and it's very good. So I would pick the GEPRC Mark V, but I could be wrong. The DeepSpace could be better. I just haven't seen it. And when I'm making a recommendation, I would recommend the thing that I am confident about. Lawn0728 asks, the props on my 3-inch quad almost hit the VTX. Do you have any recommendations for smaller props that will still work well on my 3-inch quad that weighs around 250 grams? The thing is, if your motors are designed for a 3-inch prop and you put a 2.5-inch prop on it, you're not going to get enough thrust and it's not going to fly right. I would try to solve the VTX problem or try to get a different frame that has longer arms. I think that you're not going to be happy if you use a smaller prop. If you go from 3-inch to like 2.75, it might be okay, but I don't know of anybody making 2.75-inch props. So, all right, great. Since we're talking about HDZero, any beginner-friendly tutorials? Yes. So when I did my... Now, don't let the fact that this video came out in 2023 scare you off. It did. It did. But the information is still relevant and up to date and valid. I did a tutorial. This video is part of... Oh, wow. The audio there is terrible. I have notified... Oh, that's better. So I have a tutorial on setting up the HDZero video transmitter, including wiring it up. And then if we look at the chapter markers, all of the setup steps. Unlock the VTX and update the firmware. Set up HDZero OSD and Betaflight. Configure HDZero options. I would refer you to that video for a beginner tutorial. You could file the props down. That's a good point. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, you could just... The problem is keeping them balanced if you file them down. We used to do a thing. Oh man, Blunty, were you there for the invention of bullnose props? They would take like a 6-inch prop, and they would have a jig that the prop goes on with like a Dremel tool, and you would turn the prop, and it would cut the prop off. It would cut the tip of the prop off, and that was where bullnose props came from.
I've seen bullnose props, but I was not around when they were at the height.
That's where the first bullnose props came from. Is you would cut the tip of the prop off.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I remember the squirt. I remember you had to cut them for the squirt, but I remember that being specifically a squirt thing, where you had to cut them perfectly for the squirt and then have this.
That's because it had to interface with the ducts.
Yeah, I had to cut into the ducts to make. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm new to FPV and bought a Jumper T15. I find the options a bit overwhelming. Can you help? Yes. Let me refer you to my EdgeTX 101 Complete Beginner Guide. EdgeTX 101 Complete Beginner Guide. It is a playlist of videos about EdgeTX, and the idea is it's going to sort of take you through all the things you need to know about EdgeTX and how to set it up. And there's some advanced and additional stuff at the end that I keep adding in there. Would Bambu be considered the DJI of 3D printing? Absolutely. In fact, the founders of Bambu used to be DJI engineers. So literally, yes. Is it important to activate DJI Air units and Vista units before the upcoming DJI ban? No, I don't think so.
You could always activate over a VPN if you had to. But
that's a good point.
Doubt it's going to matter.
Yeah. I don't think DJI would prevent people who have existing hardware from activating it. Now, obviously, I can't be sure.
Just remember, DJI is the same company who just removed geofencing. Okay,
yep.
So like, I don't see a company doing that and then suddenly locking down instead. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you could always use a VPN if you really needed to. If they did say, F the United States and everyone in it, we're locking out all this hardware, just use a VPN, you should be fine, right? No, I don't think you need to rush to activate it, because what'll happen in December is DJI goes on the entities list. That means at the very least they cannot get new FCC certifications, but the existing stuff still has FCC certifications. Actually, the Vista units don't have FCC certs. They never did. Yeah. Haha, isn't that fun? So the Vista units are already technically not legal. But even if they pull the FCC certs, that doesn't mean the equipment stops working. It just means it's not legal for you to use it, and you decide how much you care about that. I think, yeah. And even here, hang on, Bloody, one second. Even if we imagine a unrealistic hypothetical worst case scenario where the United States says possession of DJI Air units is a felony, you could still activate them. Why would DJI go, oh, well, shit, I guess we're not going to let our United States customers activate their hardware? DJI doesn't care if the United States government passes laws against their hardware. It would only be if they just wanted to, well, if they specifically wanted to prevent American citizens from using their stuff for some reason, but it would be a great betrayal of all of their customers, and it just seems like, what's their motivation to do that? Wouldn't it be better for United States citizens to have DJI hardware and be annoyed at the government for making it hard for them to use it, and DJI is the good guy, as opposed to DJI going, we're going to lock out all your hardware. Now DJI is the bad guy, and then they don't have anybody fighting on their behalf. Go ahead, Blunty.
So if the FCC pulls old certifications, okay, because there's two things that I've heard right now. One is the FCC chairman is trying to make it so they're allowed to pull old certifications, okay?
Yes.
Two is that Rick Scott is trying to claim that the way the bill was written, they can pull certifications from the date of the bill, which is December 2023. So that's that's another piece of it. Regardless, is it possible that you could just fly them with a ham license because they don't have Part 15?
No, why? I don't think so. because are they Part 97 compliant? Is the modulation allowed under Part 97? Is digital modulation allowed under Part 97?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So we need to look. Yeah, certainly there are some Part 15, like I recently got, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to say this. I recently got slightly into ham radio. And I'm embarrassed to say it because I got a ham license so that I could use FPV systems, which many of them are legal to operate under Part 97. And people were like, you should get into ham radio. And I was like, I'm not that interested in ham radio. What do I care? I got some radios. I got some Baofeng radios. I know that people in the ham radio community are cringing right now. And I realized that there were certain frequencies that I was allowed to use those on because I have a ham license. I was like, oh, isn't that fun? But I'm not doing any like ham radio shit. I'm just like using them to talk to my wife or my coworkers sometimes. I went out on one of these trips that I went on, and we got there and we were like, we said to the customer, hey, do you have radios? You gonna give us radios? And they were like, no, we don't have radios right now. I was like, oh shit, I need to buy radios. Because cell phones sometimes don't work. So I bought my own radios and got a little into ham radio. And I realized that some of these radios, they can operate on like GMRS frequencies, but they don't have GMRS certification, so they're not legal to use on those frequencies. But if you have a ham license, you can use the radio on other frequencies and you're good to go. So my point is, that's an example of a product that if the product was licensed, you wouldn't need a ham license to use it. But if it is not licensed, if you have a ham license, then you're good to go. But I'm not convinced that DJI is like that. I think there are probably some Part 15 devices that would be legal to use with a ham license, but I'd need to check what modulations are allowed in 5.8 gigahertz under Part 97. Let's just see if we can get an answer to this question. Do not restrict modulation types. Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe, then, Blunty, maybe, if you have a ham license, then you're good to go.
It might be worth figuring this out and then letting people know.
Yeah.
Because that's a way people could go, right? They're going to have there is a non-zero chance that the FCC certification will get pulled for existing equipment. So this may be relevant.
Interesting. You could keep using the DJI equipment legally under your ham license. I'd want to look into it. Anyway. Yeah, it's these Baofeng radios are interesting because there's two bands. One is GMRS. And it overlaps with FRS, which has lower power. And they work similar to Part 15, where the radio needs to be certified by the manufacturer, and then the user doesn't need to have a certification to use it. But the Baofeng radios can transmit on the GMRS bands, and they're not certified. And it's kind of like, yeah, but who's going to know? Like, who knows what radio you have in your hand when you key the mic and transmit? No one knows. It's another case like FPV where unless you're a bonehead and you get caught, no one's going to care. If you get caught, there will be fines. It'll be bad. And then there's another band called MURS, M-U-R-S, which is down in the VHF frequencies, which likewise, I believe, you're supposed to have certification on the radios. They're not ham bands. And then there are the ham radio bands, where, the ham radio bands are where people who really give a shit hang out. Like, you didn't say your call sign before you transmitted. So I just don't mess with those people. Yeah, these are cool. They're cool radios. It's very cool. One of my favorite things about these radios is they can listen on two frequencies at the same time. So, like, for example, you could have whatever frequency you're transmitting on, and then you also could tune in to, like, the airport's approach frequency. So as airplanes are coming in, you're hearing their traffic if you're, like, flying near an airport. It's kind of cool. Yeah. Anyway, they're fun. Let's see here. Quick question about your video on the old monitor that's 720p. Question in the Patreon chat. Let's see, Blunty. Sunshine asking a question. Where's this question from Sunshine, Blunty? Here we go. No? Where's this question? Can you help me find it, Blunty? I'm looking.
I'm trying. Yeah, he's been talking about other regulations for a while, so I don't...
Yeah, let me search for his name. Can you search?
Oh, he just posted it. He didn't post it before.
I got you. Sunshine says, I have the same Black Pearl monitor. Can I pop this out? No, I don't think I can. New in box, no DVR, looks exactly the same except the little sticker on the front is different. Don't have Walksnail to test it. I'd sell it cheaper, even give it to a member of the YouTube, but I'll make sure. There's no way to make sure unless you have Walksnail to test it with, I'm sorry to say. Like, I'm sure someone would take a chance on it. I think that if it doesn't have the DVR, then it's the same one, but there's no way to know. And I've looked. Oh, I have looked. I found one $2,500 screen that lists 720p 100 as an available input. So I think it seems like you got to be able to do better. I wish. So, like, hang on. Let me show you. Oh, you're going to love this. Hang on. Look at this. Oh, man. Somewhere Mr. Steele is people, not Mr. Steele doesn't give a shit, but the people who are fans of Mr. Steele are going to have a cow when they see what I've done. Because they're going to be like, that's just like the Chesty. You stole Mr. Steele's idea. And I'm like, that's not how any of this works. Okay. Check this out. You. Ha ha! So, I got a screen. I got a HDMI. Actually, I just swapped this screen out, and I need a different HDMI cable to go to the screen. So currently there is no HDMI going into the screen. HDMI cable to the screen up to the goggles. Goggles on your head. Boom. Screen here. Just glance down if you want to. You can fly out of it if you want to. And this is a Neewer screen. It's like 1200 nits brightness. It's amazing. Doesn't do 720p 100. It's $200. It's a steal. You got that. You got your battery in here. Put your battery in here. Power everything up. You know, it's slick. It's similar to Mr. Steele's Chesty, although this is not a Chesty. Got some tools in here. Yeah. There are times when, like, this is what you want. Pretty slick. I dig it. But I just put this screen on here because I wanted something brighter than the Black Pearl. Something I could use in the daylight. And but it doesn't do 720p 100. If you want a high nit screen that also does 720p 100, the only one I can find is like $2,500, which is way outside my price range. So if anybody could find something better, I would take it.
I'm trying to think if there are any like industrial applications in which you need higher frame rate so that you could steal it from some other industry. It's not
the higher frame rate is the thing. Lots of these screens will do 1080p 120.
Right.
It's the specifically 720p 100 that is the problem.
Oh.
720 because frame rate it has the HDMI input has to recognize the video format and accept it. It's not like if you do 720p, if you do 1080p 120, then obviously you can do 720p 100 because that's less. It's not like that.
So could you use something like a FrameMeister or something to convert?
Yes. Well, except here's the thing. So do you know what
FrameMeisters are meant for low latency? So
do you know what a decimator is?
No, I've heard that.
Decimator is a video input device, and it transcodes video formats. You see them a lot in production environments because with a decimator, you just take any video format in and out comes whatever you want. 4K 60, 4K 120.
Gotcha.
That way, all your incoming feeds are sort of cleaned by the decimator, so you don't get a case where somebody plugs some input in and it's got some weird video format. Now your video system is taking a shit. So decimator is like the industry standard for transcoding video formats. Guess what? Doesn't do 720p 100. At least some of them don't. I don't know if any of them do, but I looked. So like,
oh wow,
the thing is 720p 100 is a weird. 720p is not that common anymore. And then the times when people were using 720p 100 FPS wasn't a thing. So it's just such a weird video format. Nobody supports it. Except randomly you find a screen that does, because somehow it just slips through the cracks. Or you find one like this $2,500 screen that says it supports it, and who the fuck knows why. I wish that I could get... That's why I pulled this one out. This screen is by Neewer. I wish I could get an engineer from Neewer. I could get their ear and say, can you please enable 720p 100? Because the screen has the horsepower to do it. They just have to, like, I imagine, go in their firmware and be like, 720p 100, click, and then suddenly it'll support it. That's what I wish would happen. Anyway. Yeah. Somebody said I looked operator as fuck. I don't know about that. But here's what I do know. Yeah, buddy. That's not a very operator picture.
You're showing us you, or you're showing me you.
I'm showing the screen, the stream me. Yeah. Yeah. So tactical. Oh wait, here's a better one. Yeah, it's good. It's very good. Anyway. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Thank you. Let's see here. What 2S or 3S drone with prop guards is the most silent? A toothpick is very silent. Toothpick is it's like a sub 100 gram, 3-inch prop, 1S drone. You ask 2S or 3S. Some toothpicks also do 2S. So I would look at something like...
It's a with prop guards.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But the prop guard ones are all tinywhoops and they're not very silent. So they're
that's what I was going to stress. It's like you're asking for this sort of two sides of a coin here. Yeah. Because the more prop guard you add, the more it's going to sound like a turbine to people around you.
So let's go to Flywoo and drones and micro drone. So Flywoo, though, do they even go... Excuse me. Do they go above... No, those are all 2 inches. Damn. Who makes a 3-inch? So we could get up to a 3-inch tinywhoop, but it's not going to be very silent. I guess I would steer you in this direction. The Flylens 85. Bigger props are going to be more silent, but it's not... The Flylens 85 is not very silent, but it's quieter and has prop guards and is good. I guess that's the direction I would steer you. Oh, man. I got something in my throat. I got a question here from the Discord. Stupefied Tacos says, we know Betaflight supports altitude and position hold. Has a flight controller been put out that supports it? Yes, all Betaflight flight controllers support altitude and position hold. All you need to have is a GPS and optionally a compass and a barometer, I suppose. So you're going to want to get a flight controller that has a barometer on board. Many of them do. And then you're going to want a GPS with a compass built in, and you'll be good to go. Could you wire in an obstacle avoidance system if there was a spare UART for it? No. Betaflight doesn't have UART support for obstacle avoidance. The way you would do that is you would have a secondary computer, like a Raspberry Pi, or an NVIDIA Jetson. A lot of times it's a Raspberry Pi, though. The Raspberry Pi would have a camera. The Raspberry Pi would do the image processing, and then the Raspberry Pi would communicate to the flight controller where the drone should fly. That could be done. It would be done, I guess it would be done over a UART, but basically the Raspberry Pi would either output a control signal. I am aware of a system that exists in the world. The purpose of this system is to lock onto an object and then fly the drone until the drone hits the object. You could imagine why the person might want to do that. So it has image processing and a little supplemental computer, not the flight controller. The flight controller can't do this. It doesn't have the horsepower. And what that does is it sits, your receiver goes into the image processing module, and then the image processing module outputs a receiver signal to the flight controller. So at the time that you lock onto the object, the image processing module takes over the receiver signal and flies the drone as if it was the hand controller. So that's a way that could be done. But it's not simple. It's not trivial. If I practice on a sim first, should I get your 3-inch or 5-inch kit? That's a complete toss-up. It's a complete toss-up. Do you want to fly a sub 250 gram 3-inch or do you want to fly a 5-inch? Either one is good. There is no wrong answer. Just pick the one
I always tell people is, where do you have to fly? So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, if you've got like a big open area, if you've got farm fields, if you've got like a big bando near you or something like that's private, like those are great places for 5-inch freestyle. If you can only go to a local park where people might be, if you can only fly around your neighborhood, right? 3's are appealing. Yeah, it's going to be a lot quieter, a lot easier for people to deal with, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, good point. Good point. I have a Meteor 85 and all of a sudden my OSD stops showing up and it doesn't connect to Betaflight. Is my board fried? Seems like it might be. I'm sorry to say.
So, common issue we get on the Meteor 85 or any of these small boards, I say common, it happens, is that somehow the configuration gets wiped when you crash or the battery gets low. I know it's only supposed to be certain boards, but it happens. So the thing that I would do is hold the boot button and plug the board in. If you get a response, like if you see the bootloader or you hear your Windows ding and you can then try to flash the board back to where it was. That would be my guess, but otherwise it's a sign of it being fried.
Yeah. Sadly, not connecting to Betaflight is a bad sign. It should connect, right, Blunty?
Yeah, but maybe it got so messed up with the config that somehow it can't. We live in the 1% spaces around here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Going to DFU mode is always a good fallback. Is a Bambu A1 Mini for 175 USD a good deal? The Bambu A1 Mini is a fantastic printer. The question is the price a good deal? I suspect the price is a good deal especially because of tariffs. $249 new. So that's and that's Bambu Lab US. Okay, so that's within the US. So $249 new, you're getting it for $175. That's probably a good deal. I mean, run a test print, run a benchy. If I was going to buy a Bambu Lab A1 Mini today, what I would do is I would say, can I just watch it run a print? Like the pre-sliced benchy that is stored on the printer takes like 20 minutes to print. I'd be like, can you just run a print for me real quick? You know? And like, you could even do a smaller print. Like, frankly, after I saw it lay down the first layer, I'd probably be like, okay, it's good to go. Bambu printers are very robust. They're very reliable. And they're very repairable. You have to buy spare parts, but they're fairly repairable if something is broken. So chances are it's a very good deal. There you go.
Dahari points out a great point. You've got a month until Black Friday. So also consider waiting for sales on Black Friday. We don't know what tariffs are going to do, but just so you know.
I just saw a story that said that the new one, I think it's the P2, Bambu released the P2 around the world, but because of the potential threat of like 100% tariffs on November 1st, Bambu did not release the P2 in the United States because they don't want a bunch of people to buy it, and then suddenly there's 100% tariffs and they don't sell it. So it's really tough to live in a situation where just randomly at the whims of a government official, suddenly everything could cost twice as much. It makes it very, very hard to run a business and makes it very, very hard to be a consumer. And I think we all know that we want to be good consumers, don't we? Yeah.
Yes. Also, there's a sale starting 2 days from now, the 28th, that got posted in the coupon codes in your Discord. That's $200 for A1 Mini. So it will be $200 new in 2 days.
Well, okay, so that makes the $179 price less compelling, although you're probably not going to pay shipping on the $179, so you're still saving a little money. I might try and get that down a little bit if it's new for $200. Offer him $165, you know. But that's like my A1, my X1. Like, I've been printing on my X1. Gosh, it's probably been 2 years since I got it. Let's look. Bambu X1C 2 years ago. Let's get the exact date. I put a lot of work into that video. Man, oh man. 2 years ago, July 2023. So a little more than 2 years ago. I replaced the hot end because it got a clog in it, and I thought that spending $20 on a new hot end sounded more appealing than trying to clear the clog. You say what you will. I've greased the lead screws and cleaned the carbon rods when it tells me to, and other than that, it has had no maintenance whatsoever, and it still prints like a frickin' champ. So I think there's a very good chance that a used A1 Mini is a fine choice, you know, as opposed to like, oh, if you buy somebody's Ender 3, who knows what frickin', at any price, who knows what state it's in and whether it will print good. But a Bambu is likely to be a good buy. So,
just offhand, I asked somebody who might know about ham stuff.
Yeah.
Their suggestion is that it's possible it wouldn't be legal because the video is encrypted. I don't know if that's correct, but that there may be some rule about sending encrypted transmissions over a public amateur signal, something like that. So
you're not allowed,
considering
as a ham, you're not allowed to send encrypted signals. That's true.
And the DJI video is certainly encrypted.
Is it encrypted or is it encoded?
I think it's. I'm sure there's an encryption key. I would be shocked if it's not actually encrypted, but
yeah, okay,
it could be.
Yeah, I wouldn't. My gut feeling is that there's some technicality that prevents you from using DJI gear under Part 9070, but I don't know what that would be. That's a good point, though, Blunty. Alrighty. We're getting close to the end. Oh, we're getting close to the end. New to Betaflight, what does enabling RPM filtering do? Okay. Here's how I explain RPM filtering. In order for the drone to fly good, the flight controller has to know about the movements of the drone, right? Because the flight controller's goal, literally its goal, whole job, is to make the drone rotate like the stick's command. So if the drone rolls to the right and you didn't put right roll in, the flight controller is supposed to fix that, right? And when you put in right roll, the flight controller makes it roll to the right. Now that is not just like macro stuff, it's very small vibrations and stuff too, okay? In order for the flight controller to do its job, it uses the gyro. The gyro detects rotation. The flight controller, the gyro is what the flight controller has to work off that tells it how the drone is moving. And without clean, accurate gyro data, the flight controller can't fly the drone good. Here's the problem. Vibration is just a rotation at a high frequency. When there is vibration, the gyro picks up the vibration. The number one source of vibration is the motors. I like to make the analogy that the flight controller picking up vibration from the motors is like trying to listen to a conversation while a loudspeaker is blaring in your ear. We've got this source of noise, okay? One way that flight controllers handle this is they have what's called a low-pass filter. Think of a low-pass filter like turning down the treble on your... Right? You turn the treble down. You turn the high frequencies down. The motors are high frequencies. The movement of the quad is typically below 50 hertz, certainly below 200 hertz. The relevant movements of the quad are well below 200 hertz. Most of it's below 50 hertz. So we do the motor frequencies are at, say, 250, 300 to 500 hertz, maybe a little higher. It depends on the kV of the motors and the size of the prop. Bigger props spin slower. They can actually get down close to 200 hertz or below 200 hertz. But for a 5-inch drone, let's say. So we have a low-pass filter that gets rid of the motor frequencies. Well, it turns out that's not quite good enough. Some of the motor noise still sneaks through. What could we do? We could turn that low-pass filter but the problem is that you turn that low-pass filter down and you lose, number one, you add a lot of delay. That's the main problem. You add delay. And that makes the PID controller work worse. Okay. So we can't turn the low-pass filter down to the point where it would clean up the motor noise, because that would make the PID controller have a lot of delay and fly bad. What's our alternative? The alternative is something called a notch filter. A notch filter slices out a narrow, so a low-pass filter says, everything from here on up, get rid of it. A notch filter slices out a narrow swath of frequencies, and notch filters can be very narrow and have very low delay. So if you knew the exact frequency of the motor, you could put a notch filter right on top of the motor frequency and chop out that noise with very little delay. But how do you know the frequency of the motor? Well, it turns out that the ESC can report the motor RPM back to the flight controller. That's RPM filtering. With RPM filtering, you turn on bidirectional D-shot, and that lets the ESC report the motor RPM back to the flight controller. And then the flight controller puts a very precise notch filter right on top of the motor, and that filters out a lot of the motor noise and makes the quadcopter fly better. There you go. Long story short, RPM filtering makes the quadcopter fly better by filtering out motor noise, by targeting the exact frequency of the motor, as opposed to just saying, low-pass filter, we'll just try and get it all. Okay, and that is, we got a super chat, Lucas Middleton.
I think we have, yep.
What system do you recommend for someone switching from analog to digital for the first time? DJI would be nice, but there's uncertainty with it. Well, if you race, HDZero, no question. If you're just for cruising, fun fly, freestyle, Walksnail. That's it. There you go. Okay. That's going to bring us to the end of the stream. We will be back tomorrow, Monday, in the 8 p.m. Eastern time slot. When does the time change, Blunty?
The second.
Okay, so it won't have started yet. Ugh. I love the fall. I said to my wife, I don't know which I like better, the fall or the spring. And she said the fall. And I said, why? She said, because every time you walk outside these days, you're just like, oh, it's such a beautiful day. And you don't do that in the spring. I was like, okay, point taken. I love the fall, but we've gotten to the point now where it's like 6 p.m. and I look out the window and it's dark and I'm like, oh, it's coming. There's like 2 weeks in the fall where it's nice and cool, but still sunny, and it's not like getting dark at 6 p.m. And then it's like winter, and I'll like kill myself. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean that literally. I wish we didn't have the time change. I wish it was summertime all the time. Oh well. All right, guys. That's going to wrap us up. Good to see you guys. If you didn't get your question answered, feel free to email me. You're always welcome to email jb@joshuabardwell.com. Thank you to everybody for coming out, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.